Welcome to Film Study Podcast with Lexi. I'm Lexi. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, rate the podcast 5 stars, all of that great stuff. Here is the second part of my conversation with Brittany Love and Jenn on All American Season 6, Episode 8. Hope that you enjoy it. Spencer reads Billy's journal, questioning if he's smart for taking in a teenage boy. The Billy appearances really got me with these things, but I thought it was really funny because it gave a little bit of levity to the episode, right? Like teenage boys are basically feral to smell, etc., jokes.
Yeah. And Spencer is literally now in Billy's shoes at the moment, dealing with Dion. So
yeah, and like I said, Dion sort of comes and says his sister kicks him out, and so Liv, right, helps take Dion in, which I think is really funny to go 2 episodes again from who the hell is Dion to like, oh, well, then you're staying here. Like, this is really the story that I think felt convenient and very much of like, oh, we need something to do to fill the other time, and so we're gonna do this. For me at least, because it was not landing with me at all. I mean, and I got it, but it just I wasn't very invested in this story, I should say. But the end of that is that Dion had an attitude the whole time, and he, with Spencer, and Spencer was trying to sort of read Billy's journal to get a handle on that. Obviously, they had that cute moment with Spolivia, right, where he was just like, "I'd look to Laura," but it just felt so just overly like on the nose for me, I guess. Even though it was cute, but at the end of it is this, that like his sister didn't kick him out, right? About my brother. She was shaking me out the way she would say those lines. Your little 3 psych credits, and I'm trying to help my brother. I love her. Like, actress, if I could get you on this podcast, I would, because that was a choice, and you stuck with it, and you made it. I appreciate people that take chances and just stick with the choice. I'd rather they stick with the choice than go in and out of the choice.
Yeah.
So, but Spencer, again, helps them realize that, like, hey, Dion quit football because he's been having panic attacks, essentially, and they have a conversation, and Dion ends that by saying, like, oh, I don't care about football, I just care about you, and I love you. And she says, like, I don't care about football, I just want a better life for you. And Spencer really resolves that with his, like, thank his 3 psych credits or whatever, but Spencer helps resolve that because of the Billy
letter.
journal.
Yeah, and that was the only point of that, just because of the Billy journal of it all, having this Dion story with his sister.
And maybe that he's the next, like, he's this new Jenn that we've been talking about, but I just don't. We've now seen Dion on our screen like 3-4 times, and each time I'm like, I'm just not especially with this, I think, increased load that he had this episode with more scenes. I was just like, I'm not into this Dion story whatsoever.
That's why it was an A- for me. I agree.
But what about you, Jenn?
I think I agree. I'm not really into the Dion storyline as well. But I did find it sort of I think it felt out of place, but I found it interesting, if that makes sense. I think it really showed the pressures that Black people in particular have put on them for better futures, sacrificing what they want, but wanting to pursue a better future, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I found that interesting.
No, it absolutely
and just so I found that interesting. The whole, like, the Spencer thing of it all, I think was good. I just thought it was too much responsibility for a 19, 20-year-old. I don't know how old he is right now. I think that's the only thing I didn't like about that.
Oh, yes, it was. Dude, that's part of why I didn't connect fully with it, is because I was like, why are we giving college-year-old Spencer this, like, oh, I'm taking it. Like, Spencer, you don't need to be taking that in. And Liv, why are you, like, volunteer? And I get it, like, for the both of them, but it was just like, I understand you all's hero complex, but this just felt really out of place for them just to, like, we are gonna try to quickly co-parent this random teenager that we just met like 5 weeks ago. Like, it just felt really and odd. Like,
like, I think they really only did that just because of the journal, just so Spencer can understand what it was like for Billy to deal with Spencer. That's literally like the only thing I got from that. But
But I
them
sorry.
just being like, let's help this woman out. Yeah.
Sorry, but I will say I did like I've always had a soft spot for the Spencer and Billy relationship and the chosen family of it all. So I really did like the way they included him. And because whilst yes, Spencer was like, no, I'm not, yeah, I shouldn't get the journal, and he felt uncomfortable in that moment. Um, but I always appreciate when they try to include him in the Baker thing, because the Bakers are his family. So I think I appreciate that about the storyline, that Spencer was included in what Billy had to leave for his children and his legacy type of situation.
Yeah, no, I had no problem with that. What I was actually happy about is just that they acknowledge that it's a little bit, I think, odd for the journal of it all, like to get an entire journal when the other two kids are
Mm,
getting like letters. I just appreciate that they admitted to
yeah.
that sort of awkwardness for a bit. But I agree. I think that Spencer and Billy's relationship, again, if there was anything to point to Billy as a parent, it's his relationship with Spencer.
With
As I
Spencer.
said at the beginning, right? Like he's his
Oh, it's
favorite child.
crazy.
I think that is Billy as his best as like an adult sort of figure. But I just don't think that like they're trying to like add in Liv and Jordan. He didn't really have, I mean, obviously later in his life it was working towards that, but it's like it I'm not gonna go on a Billy Baker rant right now, but
Yeah.
it just felt a little bit forced to me. But I did appreciate that. I just wish they had brought it in a different way because, like you said, Jen, it just felt very weird that we're giving Spencer this teenage boy
Journal.
to
And
yeah
teenage
this
journal.
teenage boy to take in when he's not that far off from being a teenager himself, right? And he's still
Yeah.
a young adult. um and so that was the part of it, like I actually would have rathered it speak to sort of what Jordan was going through, like the conflict
Mm.
about the NFL and just Spencer realizing that, oh my goodness, I'm about to play my last game before the league. And so I wish it would have related a little bit more to that or something else other than this whole like Dion storyline, just because it just felt weird to me. And
Mhm.
again, it's like parentifying Spencer, even though like he doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I don't like that
Yeah,
as
like
well.
I said, I think it's just for Spencer to like kind of see what it was like for Billy to deal with him.
right,
That's
right.
what I took
And
from
even
it. So
if they
that's
had just done this, like had this without Dion having to have like
yeah,
moved
that
in, I think that
that
would have been
part. They
like if
could
he
have
had
did
just
that.
come exactly. If he had just come to
They
Spencer and
definitely
said,
could have
"Hey,
did
I
that.
need, I just need. Do you have time to talk?" Like, but the
Yeah,
whole moving in
with
of
the
it all,
same letter. I mean, yeah, with the same
exactly.
journal
Yeah,
words
with the
and
same
everything. That
journal,
would have
yeah, it
made
would have been more
yeah.
normal.
I agree. There it
Exactly.
is. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So yeah, that's when. But we keep talking about how well the women did in this show, just with
Whew.
all of the emotional heavy lifting. And
Wow.
I said this like texting for like friends, and I said this on Twitter, and I'll say this again here, is that Samantha Logan's ability to take
Mm-hmm.
one scene and have it be one of the most heartbreaking and heartwarming
Hmm.
scenes
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
is crazy, because Liv did not get a lot of time to go
No.
through her emotional journey. She really just had that scene in the kitchen, and Liv reading that letter where I'm like almost wanting to tear up thinking about it, but like Liv reading that letter where it's just like, you know really, calling right, calling her his favorite twin, big bright eyes, right, telling her that she's destined for great things. It was a really, really, really powerful scene. And then that ending scene where she's just like, I realized that I never got to say goodbye to him.
Yeah. And then turning in the book feels like she's just saying,
Yeah, exactly. And that she
losing
got
him
to
again
relive, yeah, she got to relive her memories with Billy again. And it just like,
by
I
doing this book.
felt that for her. And I just
Hmm.
think that she just did a really solid, like
Amazing job.
amazing job with that.
I love the part that gave me chills is like when he's mentioning her eyes and then she looks up and it looks like he's looking at her and
Yeah.
that was really
Yeah.
real. I love that.
Yes. Yeah. 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 I have to say, of all of the Billy sort of pop in moments, I think that the
Hmm.
one with Liv was like the best executed, I
Absolutely,
think.
absolutely.
I think with Liv and Billy, you really get to gauge. I think they've kind of used Liv as the gauge of where everyone is in the grieving, and kind of to remind people that Billy died, if that makes sense. Because we kind of get like Laura a little bit and then Jordan a little bit, but I think Liv is the one who's done the heavy lifting of the grief arc for Billy. And I think the letter that she got from Billy, like it was so sweet, and I think it shows who Billy wanted to be as a father. And I think that's what the letter show, like who Billy wanted to be as a father. Did he miss the mark? Yes. But at least like it shows the type of person and parent he wanted to be.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfectly said. It is who Billy wanted to be, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I agree. And that's why I felt it, because it felt real. Like I think, yeah, and Jordan's in a way too, but I feel like, and Spencer's in a way too, but it just, like, for Liv, like, this one felt real. And it felt
Real.
like, it felt like that could just be like Liv's
Mhm.
imagination of him saying these things to her as she's going through this. So yeah, it was really powerful. The one thing, there was an adorable, I think, Spolivia parallel that I would be remiss if I didn't call out, but obviously the letters, I said it, yeah, the getting the Corey stuff, but it was, when Liv told Spencer that he's strong enough to handle what was in his dad's letter, and Spencer told her that she was strong enough to handle it. I will say, I love the moment, I love the callback, but I rolled my eyes a little bit when Liv said, like, not, it didn't roll my eyes, but I was like, girl, please. But when Liv told Spencer, like, oh, what got you to read the letters? I'm like, girl, come on now. We all know what got him to read the letters. Like, you said it. Like,
Oh,
don't even try to pretend.
no.
Don't even try to pretend.
Okay.
Oh, what got you to read the letters?
I'm
Like,
weak. Oh my god.
Stop it! Stop it!
because it's just like, we don't. Sometimes I feel like, I might get people coming for me with this one, but sometimes I feel like in a lot of ways, and not just with Spolivia, but they over engineer moments sometimes, and it's just like, if you just let the couple moments be the couple moments, we don't need extra stuff added. Like, if Spencer could just say, but, like, hey, remember when you told me, like, I'm strong enough to handle it? Like, we don't need Liv being like,
Yeah.
what got you to read it? Like, we don't need that. Like, we could just let the moment breathe and let the callback be the callback. And I think it was an appropriate callback for them to have, I
Yeah.
think. And I think it fit the moment really well. And I just think it would have been that much more special if it wasn't just like, so what got you to read that? It's just like different for me.
Oh, I feel that.
But be that as it may, I still think that Sam completely knocked everything that she was
Yes.
given in this episode out of the park.
Absolutely.
As did
Yeah.
Greta.
As
Did Greta.
honey. Wow. I was like, she ate. I'm like, okay, mental awareness, health awareness month. She did what was needed to be done. Let's get to it.
I do not often tear up. I know you, Jen, you have some reactions there, but I'm being so serious when I say I do not often tear up. But I think that we all know someone who, at the very least, has dealt with mental health struggles, and Greta's depiction of this over the past 6 seasons.
Yes, 6 seasons. I'm like, just not this season.
Has been
just not this season.
Just so consistent, and I think strong, because when we first, and I'll get into breaking down the storyline, obviously, but I do want to do this frame up. When we first got Layla sitting in that therapist chair, it was like, for me, it was like when we saw Sam, like, with her straightened hair, and it's like, oh, when we see Sam with straightened hair, when we see Liv with straightened hair, we know that she's about to struggle with her sobriety. And it's like, when Greta has this, just like, she has her hair pulled back, she's
no
not
glam, no
yeah,
glammed
that
up.
Layla's like not glammed up when she's not dressed to the nines, and she just has this, like, innocent and also defensive look about her.
Yes.
you're just like, oh my
We
gosh,
about to
she's going through it.
be in for it. Yeah.
You're about to be in for it. And so we get Layla at her second session with I forget the doctor's name, Dr. Gibbs, who is the therapist from the Baker family therapist, and it was a Laura recommendation, so we do get Laura acknowledged in that way. But she helped the Baker family with the infidelity, and we get her very quickly in this second session, I think, becoming very defensive, right? Very protective of
Very
her
defensive.
pending marriage, right? Right? My pending marriage is the least of my worries. Like, he's the only part of my life that's working. All of these things that she says.
Yeah.
And the therapist's job really at that moment is to get her to not be as defensive as she
Defensive.
always
Yeah.
is. And
Yeah.
she can be
That's
very,
her.
very defensive. And she's just like, listen, I'm not here to attack you. I'm not here to
Mm-hmm.
judge your life, judge your engagement, whatever the case. Like, I'm just here to help you.
Yeah, but I
And
think her starting with the engagement part of it all what triggered Layla to the extreme because she was
definitely,
like,
definitely.
"Wait, this is the last of my worry." Like she just believed that just had nothing to do with it, and then she kept mentioning the other things that happened, and was like, "It has to be one of
Yeah,
these
all of
because
the changes,
it's not."
which is something that I've mentioned. Which is something that I've mentioned is, and I think that she
Hmm.
still is going to have to process those other changes as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
too.
yeah, and and this is, I would get this question all the time from people of just like, what do you think is like, what's going on with Layla? And I'm like,
Hmm.
Layla's been through a lot of changes. The
Yeah,
engagement, the lounge,
yeah.
just her life in general. And she has to
Hmm.
process those things. And I think that's what we started to see in this episode in a really big way, obviously, with the biggest change in her life.
Yeah,
But we see that this therapy session is uh getting to her and getting to her quickly. And it's just so funny the
because
way that
yeah,
they set this up, because Layla stops by and asks Jordan a series of questions.
yes,
Asks about Simone, asks about the
that.
proposal. Why did you propose to me?
What,
Why,
what I
like,
can tell you, I was just in complete shock. I didn't know
oh,
where
me
we was
too.
going with that. I was like, literally in my reaction, I'm just like, I really don't even know what to say. Like, I don't know what is happening. I'm just
I
like, I'm
know, right?
answering for
Right?
Jordan. I'm like, cause he love you. He said, I don't know what you, Layla, what is going on? And I'm just like, this engagement
But
part
again,
of it all.
yeah, and I'm not going to list all the questions, but I think that
Yeah.
it's important to note that, like, it felt like she didn't even know that she had those questions until the moment that she asked those questions. But they've been in her mind, in the back of her mind, unconsciously for a while, obviously, because it was going back to like, what happened, right, with you and Simone, or whatever the case may be. Um,
For her to question, yeah, but for her to question her place in this man's life, like for that to do that for her, that's because she's just like, why is this therapist trying to get me to dissect this engagement or break apart this engagement? Like that's the furthest thing. Like this is the only thing that's working, and I think she was saying Jordan is the only thing that's working for
right.
her, but that she's not realizing that the engagement part of it all is what triggered everything.
Yeah,
It's just the
exactly.
engagement part. It's not Jordan, and I think she was kind of getting triggered because she's just like, okay, don't. I hope you're not questioning Jordan's love for me or my love for him. Like it's not that. But I think she's
I
just
think
not
she was being
realizing.
defensive. Yeah, I think that she was being defensive and protective over her relationship.
Yeah, but I don't think the therapist was even doing that to say no.
Exactly.
I'm not coming after you and Jordan's relationship. I'm talking about the engagement of this.
But I also
Um,
think it was just like she's talking about Layla in general, and Layla had to open up, and so it wasn't. I think it was even more like, obviously we settled on the engagement, but I think it was even more than the engagement. It was just like, I need you to not be so defensive about yourself, so that we can actually do the work. But she mentions to Jordan that the therapist wants her to try EMDR, which is eye movement
mhm.
desensitization reprocessing.
Go ahead.
And he says that he's done some research on it. She also says, like, do you get sick of taking care of me and things like
Wow,
that.
took me out.
um
And our reassuring king, he went in, honey.
no,
He was
never.
like, we at eye level with this. Cause what? My man was like, my man was like, wait, what? Like, where is this coming from? He had to let her, like, one thing Jordan gonna do is reassure himself as many times as
Oh my
possible. But
word.
he went eye level with this girl. Like, are you, what's
Crack
going on?
me up.
Like, no, I would never get tired
So
of helping you. Like, why are you
yeah,
asking me this? And I just love
yeah.
that part on Jordan's side, for real.
Same. We'll come back to their middle scene, but I want to get to her therapy session where she's breaking down like this memory with her mom, and
Oh my God.
again, she was still very defensive, and she like was saying like I already worked on my feelings about my mother. They start this treatment that they're getting into, and she remembers herself as a little girl hearing her dad yell.
Baby
She needs to
Layla.
take a break. I know, baby Layla. She gets like I think worked up very quickly and needs to take a break, but then they dive deeper into the memory. And
Oh,
just saying it like
the plot
Layla
twist.
imagines Layla gets deeper into the memory, and she remembers her dad and her mom being just like in bed,
Done in bed.
unable to get up. Yeah, done. Right,
And I'm
not for
thinking like
JP.
yeah, I'm thinking before that, like when baby Layla was covering her ears, I thought they were just really like going hardcore arguing about, something. I had no
Same.
idea
I was
it
just
was
like, I when I first saw that, I was just like, "Is JP?" I was just like, "I know JP didn't abuse that woman."
I know.
I was like,
I'm like,
I was
please don't
confused.
let this be a case.
No, I know. I was just like, that would be
Yeah,
insane if that was like the
that's
twist that they did. But it was just that not just, but it was that Monica really was so
depressed, severely
severely
depressed.
depressed that she just couldn't get out of bed. She couldn't do anything, right? And she had said that
Mhm.
she had nothing left. And young Layla saw that, but she imagined herself as
So,
Monica. She imagined
wow.
Jordan as JP. So I want to pause there before we get to their ending conversation. But what did we think of Layla's uh, starting this new treatment, getting into
Hmm.
therapy?
Honestly, I liked it for multiple reasons. I think the first thing I really liked was she was finally seeing a doctor. So I really like that. Um, I liked how they showed the collaboration between a patient and a doctor, and that the autonomy that comes with medicine that a patient has. I liked how they showed that, um, especially when it comes to like mental health stuff, like the patient's input is very important, and what they want to seek is also very important. So I liked how they showed that. I liked how they also showed that mental health treatment is not like a monolith. It's not just
Hmm.
medicine or talking. Like there are
Mm-hmm.
different ways to approach it and different ways to help you. And I also like that they used I think it's EDMR, if I'm
EMDR,
not
yeah.
mistaken. Um, EMDR, sorry, because um, it's slightly controversial
Yeah, I was just like, this
um,
is a
in some
new treatment.
settings,
I actually
and
thought that they were gonna do like electrotherapy, which is actually pretty helpful for severe depression like that. But go ahead, Jen. Sorry, but I was also shocked that they did a more like
yeah,
sort of alternative method of
Yeah,
treating depression. But she does have major depression, so it's like you
yes,
have to do these sorts of things that aren't as
mm,
common, and especially because her
hmm,
medication stopped working.
yeah.
exactly. I like that. I like that it was a little bit like a controversial treatment, um, but I think it also shows the art that is mental health and
Hmm.
how you treat it. That some things work for other people, some things don't work for other people, the balance that you need to achieve with each patient. So I like that approach. And I also like how, even though it wasn't overly focused on, but they did highlight the steps of, it's what you do the history taking and then you have
Hmm.
the session. So the steps were kind of highlighted on how the treatment works. So I think I like it on that thing. But when it comes to Layla and and her triggers, and I don't know, the thing is with the storyline, I thought they were going to focus on a certain thing. So I was kind of like, surprised that they took a different route, which is okay, but I thought they were mainly going to focus on having to sometimes readjust your meds, right? And not necessarily because, a big event has happened, and I know that's what they use
Same.
to trigger it, but
Yeah.
like
Mm,
sometimes, life could just life could just be normal and you need to
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
readjust your meds and it's just not working as well anymore. So I think that's the part I was a little bit shocked by, but I will give them credit though, because you might disagree with me, but I do think that they've built this trigger for Layla from
Mm-hmm.
the proposal, where she was kind of
Mm-hmm.
objecting to it, to the idea of
Yeah.
marriage and proposal, again proposed to. So I think they did show like a little bit of a subconscious kind of like ring alarm bells, like this could be
Yeah.
a trigger for you. Um, and so we worked that down all the way um
Yeah.
to this
Oh,
episode.
I
yeah, I
Yeah.
think
agree.
Brittany, before you jump in, I
Mm-hmm.
agree, and because I do want to say, I also thought that they were gonna show that sometimes you just hit a plateau for no other reason than you just hit a plateau, with your medication. And I was surprised, but I also like. I think that we who have been following the story for so long, we can also see why it was sort of almost necessary for them to connect it, because Layla never actually, in my opinion at least, never actually really processed her mother's death, right? She was going through that
Mm-hmm.
process, but that's when she was starting, like
Mm.
she wasn't even diagnosed yet
Mm.
with major depression. So she was just trying to figure it all out, and all of that was happening at once. And so she didn't really get a true opportunity to do that. And I think with the engagement, and I agree, I do think it's like you could tell that it was a trigger, but I don't think it was a trigger in the sense that I never once thought like, oh, and again this is for me, but I never once thought that like, oh, she doesn't want to marry Jordan or she's not
Right.
happy about this. It's just that for some
Yes.
reason there's a stop in her, and I always knew that like that reason was like she's triggered by something, but for some reason there's like this pause for her that
Mm-hmm.
she can't even express, and maybe she doesn't fully understand. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
so happy that we got to this point where she now understands it. So I agree with you
Yes.
actually.
Yeah.
And
Yes. I
Brittany, go
actually,
ahead.
yes, I do agree with that. Well said. Well said. But yes.
You was like, oh, I was prepared to fight.
Yeah. No. No. I'm not gonna fight. You know me.
No,
I
I'm
am
not
not like
messing with you. I'm
you. You
messing with
know
you.
me.
I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you. Because I fight Jen all the time.
Join me. I would
Listen,
just go
you're
hard.
being initiated. You're being initiated into the circle
I'm gonna
because
be defensive like
Jen and
Layla.
I will be like, we'll voice note each other, and we were like, wait, I was prepared to fight, and now
Right.
I kind of agree. I don't know.
I'm like, hold on, because I thought it was gonna be some crazy shit. Like, I mean, oh, because I
No,
thought it
Jen
was gonna
can
be
get
like,
crazy though. Yeah,
Layla don't love
don't let her
Batman.
fool you. Jen
Jordan
has some
don't love
crazy
her.
theories. Jen has some crazy theories. Don't let her fool you.
Oh, okay.
I,
No, well, let's save that for another time. But what she said right now, I agree. But no, just going to the adjusting of the mess of it all too. I just kind of already felt like Layla just did not want to be on her meds anymore. I like,
Mm,
so I'm actually glad that they did, yeah, go
okay.
this route
Mm.
of her, because just her saying like, I'm just trying to navigate to just get off my meds. Like she just completely wants to be off of that by finding like an alternative. And I really understand that too, because I have family and friends and stuff who takes medication who just get tired of it. It's just like, okay, I
mm-hmm.
have to take this.
Mm.
But they just be wanting to go hardcore. My brother, for example, he just doesn't want to take medication at all. And he's just like, if I can find an alternative to just get
Mm.
off this completely, please, let's do that. So I just kind of felt that for Layla for a long, long time now. So I already just
Okay.
love that they were just
Mm.
going to this where she just like, I just want to get off this medication. Especially when Ryan brought it up, it was just like, oh, a no-brainer, like let me just try weaning off to eventually get all the way off.
Yeah.
So I already just, that's why I'm just really digging what they did with this episode of it all. But one thing I got to say about Layla and just the therapy of it all is just because you know how she feels about therapy. So for Jordan to kind of help her get to this point, or even considering therapy and trying this out, I was really happy about it, especially during the actual moment of it, because at first she was just like, okay, now you over here questioning, I mean, have me questioning my engagement. It's best that we don't do this. But then the therapist like, wait, what if
Mm.
can we try this? And she's open to trying that. So that warms my heart for her to just continue.
Yeah.
with this to really just get to the root of the problem. Even when she goes to the, what is it, ED, I don't know, the EDRM.
EMDR.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're good.
Once she
All
does
of the
that, she
letters.
just, yeah, she's just like, wait, okay, I have to stop, but she still is willing to continue it, even though it's just like, it's her, it's getting to her having to just go through this process, but she needed it to. But yeah, when it comes to the actual memory and them doing this plot twist of Jordala actually playing the role of her
Yeah.
parents, was not expecting that. I was really
I
expecting to
was
see
not
JT
either.
and somebody. I was like, who's gonna be playing Monica? That was in my thought. I'm like, oh, who's gonna be playing, Layla's mom in this? But for them to go to that really just like took me out, because Jordan was in the previous episode saying things like, let me help you, and this is what baby Layla was hearing her dad say to her mom, as she's laying in the bed, like,
Yeah.
then just let us help you, like, so all of that is just coming at her. Like, Jordan is saying the same things that my dad was saying to her mom to try to get her to get up, but like her mom just completely was just done. And especially the light in your eyes thing, like,
Yeah.
for her to just
Uh,
be like, there used to be this light in your eyes, and now it's like completely gone. um to go to the, yes,
I
Yeah.
also loved, because I just felt like it was so powerful, but right, like Layla as Monica
yeah,
saying, um, you know, I just go to places and
yeah,
I just show up and I just talk, but it doesn't even feel like the words that are coming out of my mouth are my own. And I feel like that is such, just like, they've been so textbook,
That's
Jen.
yes,
They've been so textbook with depression, and I think it's like,
man,
and again, I think that's what got this
yeah.
episode to an A for me, just because
hmm
the way that they've handled this depression storyline for
so well, it,
seasons, and to
yes,
culminate in this moment, in this really
Yeah.
deep moment that took place, was just like, I cannot not give them their 10 out of 10s
yes.
for how they handled this
Right,
and how
because
they
I'm like,
handled
if
Layla
this
going
is
to
the
therapy.
last season, y'all
Yeah.
really did well with just the
Yeah.
Layla of it all, coming to this part of her depression.
And even
If
her
this is like,
Yeah.
yeah,
realizing, and
yeah,
even her
Yeah.
realizing just that, the therapist pushing her a bit, the doctor pushing her a bit, to say, like, because she's like, oh yeah, my dad told me, and she was just like, no, but I'm sure that you saw signs even if you were a little girl. And to realize that, like,
Yeah.
again, and this is something that I, you know said, maybe not like public, but I've said to certain groups of people, but I was just like, I feel like Layla had this like idealized version of her mom, just like Spencer had an
mm-hmm,
idealized version of Corey post death,
mm,
because they're trying to remember their parents in the best light, and they
in
got a
the
short
best
period of
light.
time with them. And I was just like, we get Layla saying things like, oh, my mom and I haven't felt at home like since mom was alive, and things like this. But then we get other moments where we realize how deeply she values the Baker family and that she spent a ton of time with them. And I was just like,
Mm-hmm,
I do not think that Monica was around that much. And to
mm,
see young Layla going through that, where her
yeah.
mom, and she's only like 8 at that
She said
point.
six. She said
6.
six.
Oh my goodness. So
Yeah,
she's only like
6
6
years
at that
old.
point,
Mm-hmm.
and her mom can't get out of bed.
Yeah,
That's
and this is
that's
what Layla just didn't want to remember. Like when she's just like, "What if
exactly
I don't want to remember?" Because she,
that part. And then
since her
Layla
death,
saying, "What if I don't want to
yeah,
remember?" Like,
uh
that's
huh, she said that,
that's some
yeah.
powerful stuff.
Cause see,
Just the
after
fact,
her mom's death, she kind of just painted this picture of just like just all the good things of her mom. Like she just
exactly.
all only the good things. Even when it came to Jordan, one in the like Jordan saying, "Let's move in." She's just like,
Right.
"Well, I kind of always wanted what my parents had," and I'm just like,
Right.
"Well, you actually don't want what your parents had." And she's like, she just was kept trying to paint this good picture of her
I was gonna
parents'
say two things.
relationship.
I was gonna say I appreciate the balance that they showed with the, I think she's a psychiatrist, of the balance of pushing your
Oh
patients
yeah.
and giving them room to breathe.
Mhm.
Because I think in the beginning where she was like very defensive about her engagement, she kind of like backed off a little bit and
Mhm.
then kind of approached it in a different way. So I really appreciate that. The other thing I will say is like I appreciate that they showed that depression can have many faces
Yes.
Many.
and that it doesn't just look one way. So I really do appreciate the care that they put into that. and just allowing people to see if you if you're not lying in bed crying doesn't mean you're not depressed.
Mhm.
So that's what
Mhm.
that's another thing I want to say.
Yeah, because
Again,
Layla,
Layla's been
she's not
taking
going to be
daily
in bed all day.
medication for
Yeah.
since season two. Since season two, she's been taking daily
Mhm.
medication, and she's not been talked about.
Mm,
Yeah.
And I think that's
Oh.
normal, right? It's just like she's so again, she's such a sort of well-adjusted character, but I think she's a really great representation for people that don't have the
yeah.
stereotypical or what
Mhm.
you would expect, like the
Yes.
A
face of depression to
depression to
be.
look like,
Yeah,
yeah, because she
yeah,
uses
yeah,
being busy
Yes.
to cope with that. This is
yeah.
why she just got to have a
Really,
billion,
Like hyper.
and her
billion businesses.
perfectionism, right? Like she has all these goals and
So
all of these things that she
so
does, and
independent. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But getting to
Wow.
the Jordala
That
part,
hyper.
Yes, please.
but yes, the
Okay.
high performing anxiety. I was hoping that they would add that in too, but it's a lot. You can't cover
Yeah, it's a lot.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She does have high performing
Yeah.
anxiety. Layla does for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but getting into Jordala part that you didn't like, but we're always a fan of on this
Mm.
podcast.
Amen. Go off, Lexi. She gonna go hard for Jordala each time. Each time.
Okay.
Jen is like, is it my
Okay.
bedtime yet? Uh,
Not
she's
yet,
like,
Jen.
okay.
Not yet.
She's like, I'm done. I've done my duty. No, but the end of this is that and let me start by teeing it off this way. There was some things going around about an ex-fiance line for a couple of months. I must say,
When I
I
tell you,
posted some screenshots of me saying, "Watch when Layla's referring to Simone," and that's
and
what
there it
happened.
is. Cause I
And
was just,
there it is.
man, I cracked up so bad when it got to that part on the real. I literally paused the and just was laughing because I was just like, they just swore up and down, honey, up and down. Ex fiance was Layla.
That's why you need context
Woo! This is
for
why y'all.
scenes and for script
That's why
writing.
people just need to.
Um, but that
Oh
being
my
said,
goodness.
we've been talking about Layla and what she realized, and what she did realize is that she had a lot of triggers that, in her words, right, were waiting to go off like landmines. And the engagement was a trigger for
Since the
her
yeah.
because being married exacerbated things with her mom and exacerbated her mom's depression. And she was concerned that that was going to be
To be
her,
them.
right?
Yeah.
Right. And she says she was just like, my mom didn't know how to ask for help. My dad didn't know how to help her. Jordan was going to give her an out, but she's just like,
Oh,
listen, I'm not my mom. You're not my dad. And obviously the really great line, right? Like he stopped looking at her like with love, right? And he's just like, and you still
yeah.
look at me
You
like
still
that, like
like
you do,
that?
yeah,
Oh.
like that. And she's like, I don't want an out. I meant it when I said yes. And this line was crazy to me, and I think it's underrated from her. But she said like, I don't want to bring all of this
That
baggage
baggage
into our
into this
marriage.
marriage.
So on the realization that the engagement was the trigger, which we've talked about a little bit, but how Jordan and Layla as a whole handled this engagement thing. What did you think about that? I want to start with Jen specifically because you said that you weren't a fan.
My first thing I'm gonna say, right? Let me first start off by giving Jordan some praise. I have always appreciated Jordan as a partner. I think he was a good
Okay.
partner to Simone. Um, I think he's a good partner to Layla. Does he have his faults? Yes. But he's always been a good partner, I think. Um, Now I'll go on to my tangent. I think that the thing that I really had a problem with was when she said, "You've always been there. You were there at my lowest," or something like that.
She said,
I
in my
don't quite
darkest
remember what
moments.
she said.
Darkest moments.
You were there,
You were
Yeah.
there
right?
through my darkest
And
moments, and you never stopped looking at
yes,
me like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
so my question for you guys, right? Since it's not really, I don't really go here. Um, my question is, when we're saying there, right? Are we meaning he was a witness to what Layla went through, or he was um a supportive role in what she went through? What are we meaning when we say there?
I think Layla for sure is saying supportive, not physically being there. There
You
have been
see,
stuff in the past because I seen that kind of on my timeline too,
you
where I
see,
was like a little irritated by the comments because I'm just like, I don't think that she's literally saying physically there. And but remember, there's just so much we haven't seen of Jordan and Layla together
you.
since season one. You know, they grew up together. You know, while Layla was actually dealing with losses of her mom and stuff. So we don't know exactly how Jordan has been through that. But I'm not thinking she meaning physically there. I'm thinking she's saying you never left. That's what I'm thinking Layla is giving Jordan credit for. It's like you have been there, you have been supportive. Yeah, you have been there, you have been supportive. Out of all the people, because you know, many people have witnessed many depressing and just like downfalls of Layla, even just witnessing that. What makes Jordan different is that he stayed through all this stuff, even the future things to come. He stayed, he never left, he never changed.
Yeah.
And that's why after
Okay,
following after that, she says, "You still look at me like that." That was like a perfect
Yeah.
connection
So
okay.
to what she was
decoding
saying.
their romantic
Yeah, I
relationship.
don't
Jen,
think
I
it's
want to hear. I want to
physically
hear your
there.
rebuttal because you sound like you got something to say. So say it.
Please don't bring up the Spencer and the suicidal
No, no,
stuff.
no, 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 no. I
Please
want to hear what
don't.
Jen has to say because I'm gonna end it. I want to Jen get out all of your things that you have to say because then I'm gonna respond and we're gonna go to predictions.
Um, you see, this is the problem I have because you can't say they love things we haven't seen and all of these things because I think Jordan and Layla, right? They've been written in a way that they're trying to supplement what was missing on our screen in the present moment. So if you put in lines like "you've always been there," right, and because for me, if you had said he was a witness to what Layla's been through, I would have been like, okay, that I can understand, that I can accept. But to say that he had a supportive role in what Layla went through, because uh, uh, I can hear Lexi breathing. I'm not yet done. Um,
I'm not
to
done.
say
No, no,
that he
no.
had
I do
that
want to
to
I want to because what Layla went through. I want you to name some things. Name some things. What you're talking about when you say what Layla went through.
Yeah, name them.
okay, so okay, so what we're gonna start off with, let's start off with like season one, right? In season one, we see they don't really interact, but in season one, near the end of season one, you see that Layla's really starting to go through her own thing, right? You start to see the cracks in Layla's mental health. And then you see Liv show up for her.
Mm-hmm.
You see Liv notice those cracks
Right.
in Layla's mental health,
Mm-hmm.
and you see her be present.
Yeah.
And then
Absolutely.
we go into season two. Absolutely right. Okay, we're agreeing so far. I love this.
I mean, we'll
And
always
then
agree
we
with
go
Laylivia.
into
Yes, correct. Go ahead.
Oh, amen, amen, amen to Laylivia.
You're preaching to the choir here. Go ahead.
and then so then we see in season two, right? And I think not to bring in an outside conversation to the podcast, but me and Lexi have spoken about this, right? And you see that in season two, for me, her lowest point was season two, right? That was the lowest point. And whilst I can probably concede maybe he had some concern for her, but that active support that is implied in her sentence, "You're always there for me," we didn't see it. That's
Okay.
and that's the only thing that I have like against that sentence because it really just goes to like I'm watching the show. Like what did I miss?
And that's
Okay.
fine.
My
And
eyes are
But
wide
I
open.
think
What did I
what
miss?
makes us younger
here's
is
my
the aftermath of it all, though. It's the
yeah,
aftermath of that. Like, yeah,
yeah.
that was the dark and but what about the aftermath of what she was going through? Season three, season four. This is what I'm
But
talking
then
about.
even
Of just
And
even in
then,
the
the
oh
in
no,
the
no, okay, because
even
we
in the
really have time.
even
So
in the aftermath,
Jen.
we needed more
Okay,
time
this
on
is what
this. This is not
we
fair.
did, and that's fine. We're gonna get the more time in the comment. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this in response to Jen's rebuttal and like saying when do we see it. I'll say this: Layla has had multiple dark moments across this
Even
but
season.
her
Like you
some we
said,
darkest
haven't
was season
seen.
two.
hold on, hold on. She didn't just say it was my darkest moment. Like non-plural. It was my darkest moments. So again, Layla has had multiple dark moments. There's been dark moments that we didn't see, like Brittany mentioned, like prior to season
Even
one.
just think of the fresh moments of her losing her mom.
This is the
Jordan,
problem with Jordela, though. This is the problem with Jordela. I'm done.
Like I was saying, darkest moments plural. And I think that if you look at, as Brittany was mentioning,
At
the can I finish? As Brittany was mentioning the aftermath of season 2, and even though you're saying that was her darkest moment, I think that she's been through several traumatic things, and I don't think you're going through things and saying like, oh my gosh, this was like a little bit more traumatic than this other thing that
not at
happened to
all.
me. Because she got, I mean, you look at season 3, and we all know what happened in season 3, where she felt like there was a huge betrayal of trust in season 3. And I do think him telling her that he's strong, just like Spencer just told Liv that she's strong enough to handle, just like Liv told Spencer that she's strong enough to handle. Those are meaningful moments. But I mean, you can say anything, right? Oh, it was just a hug, but it might not been just a hug for her. And it could have affected her differently. Like it could have landed very differently. It could have been I think it was very meaningful for her. But besides that, also when she got kidnapped and almost pushed off of a cliff, and she was looking for Liv. She was looking for the person that she usually goes to. And Jordan was there for her, and he listened to her, and he talked with her about that experience. I think to this day, he's probably the only one that's talked that in depth about that experience. If you go a few months after that, right in the studio where she's literally destroying her studio, he was there, right? Not even just in all of the moments in between, right, where she was dealing with that trauma with Carrie and still dealing with the things of season 3 and everything like that. And now again, as she's going through this, yes, it sort of has something to do with their relationship, but as she's going through this new sort of trying to figure out, like, should I be on my medication or not? Should I, like, I'm still dealing with this depression. I'm having a bit of a crisis, a bit of an episode right now, and he's sticking with her through it. And so I think that if I don't think that we can say, oh, well, in season 2 it was her worst moment. So, and I don't think that, like, we don't look at trauma like that. I don't think as human beings, and I think it's really unfair to hold these characters to oh, well, like this one character wasn't very present in this moment, because I think that we can do that with any of the characters and any of the couples. I'm not going to get into that right now because we don't have time, but again, I think that we can nitpick and say, oh, this was a little bit more traumatic, but that doesn't change the fact that all of these characters have gone through multiple things, and if it's true for them, their lived experience, is like Layla saying, hey, you've been there for me. It's so funny because it's like, if she had just put the word some, like, you can give an implied some. If it doesn't apply to you, if this one particular moment doesn't apply to you, it doesn't apply to you. But it's you have been there for me, Jordan, in the darkest moments that matter to me right now, that matter to me currently, that I'm dealing with currently. And so I think that, like, again, we can get nitpicky about, oh, season 2 was slightly darker than when she was almost pushed off a cliff, but I don't, like, those two things are extremely traumatic for her. So it's like,
but her following after that would just, like, you still look at me like that. That's what really and
specifically in the romantic context, like, this doesn't change how you feel about me in our partnership, in our relationship, which is, I think, very different than, like, what she's experienced with her past friendships and her past relationships, right? Is that, like, and again, I think her past friendships have been there for her and continue to be there for her, but in romantic relationships, it's very different than what she's experienced. So I'm gonna end it there. I was not expecting us to go. We're getting to predictions. So thank you for listening to our review